Okay, so today we'll talk more about how to write the program and where to write the program, and we'll see a very simple program that people normally start with in almost any language that they learn. So, as I mentioned before, we are going to learn the C programming language, and there is also a B programming language, but we don't learn the B. C is an important language, and many things are written in C, and it's going to be a good base for our next programming languages and other tools. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was where do we write the program? If you remember, we talked about files a long time ago. It was probably 4 years ago. And when I said that there are different types of files, we talked about files that can represent pictures or text or videos, etc. So if we remember what the file is a unit of memory or of data that's stored on a computer, and in the case of programs, it's going to be a very simple type of file, and the type of file is going to be text. Because when we saw examples for programs, we talked about commands, instructions, and the instructions look like English type of commands, so those can be represented as text. And once we finish writing the program, we can save it as a text file, and if you're on a Windows computer, it's going to be .txt, and you can do that with a program that's called Notepad that creates files with extension of .txt, but later on we'll download some environment in which we can create files for programs, and those files will have another extension. The extension will be .c because it's a C programming language. But we'll see that later on. Those files with .c will also be text files. So for right now, what I will do is I'll type a very simple program in the C language, which is a legal program, and we'll have a chance to see how it works later on, maybe not in this part. This is part 4 of lesson 7. So let me type in the commands, and then I'll explain what each command is. That's it. This is the whole program. And you can probably guess what this does. As you can see, you read it from top to bottom, and the first command says # include studio.h, then it says main, then it has sort of a curly brace, then it says printf, and inside the brackets we have in quotes, in double quotes, we have hello world. So yes, you guessed correctly, this program prints the words hello world. Now, what are the other things that are around here, and why do we need to write so much in order to print only one line? Let's talk about that, and let's talk about the syntax of the language C. Syntax means how do we write commands and what are the constructs of the language. So on the first line you see here the include statement. What it does, it basically brings in a library. It's sort of a functions that reside in a library. Now you see this name studio. IO should remind you input and output. So what this line does for now, we'll just say it brings in the functions that can facilitate input and output. If we didn't have this line, we wouldn't be able to print, and this program needs to print. So later on we'll see more about what's inside this file that's called studio.h, but for right now just remember that it brings in some facility that allows us to print. The next command says main and has empty parens. Main means it's the main program, and every C program is composed of functions. But if there are no special functions, the only function is the main, which is the main program. In this case, we don't have any other functions, and we'll talk about functions later and what they are. But for right now, just remember that when it says main, that means it's the main program. And then braces are signs of a block. So between this brace and that brace, we have a block of code, or a block of statements, or a block of commands, whatever you want to call it. But this starts the block is a left curly brace, and end the block is a right curly brace. And inside the block we have a very simple command, and this command, we'll see later on that this command is also a function, but for right now let's just say printf prints whatever we give it inside the parentheses. So inside the parentheses we put a string, and the string is delimited by the double quotes, and in the string we say hello world, and then we have this /n. The /n causes our cursor on the screen to go one line down, and we'll talk more about that later on. But for right now, as a result of this printf, the program, when we run it, it will print on the screen the word hello world. Now if you remember, we can't run this program right after we type it, but we first have to compile it and make a load module, we call it, from this program, and then we'll run the load module. But it's not yet time to run this program. I just want you to understand a few basic things, to look at it, and we'll talk much more about how to write more programs and what other commands are available. This program is even simpler than the flowcharts that I showed you. So this is just a taste of the syntax of C, how to write a program, the main part, and the braces and the block concept, and this is just a high level of the first program that we're going to write. So just review this lesson, this part 4, and we'll probably have part 5 and part 6 before we actually start writing more significant programs, but for now this will be a good introduction.